Welcome into MJT Football. I am Tony Tucker, back from his hiatus. Not really hiatus. This man never stops working. Went to the Pro Bowl, and maybe we'll talk to him about that. We're going to get into Aaron Rodgers in the deprivation room for 4 hours. Lamar Jackson's bag is too light, and Derek Carr goes marching in. Oh, when Derek Carr goes marching in, Saints, here I come. What's good, everybody? If it's your first time here at MJT, hit that subscribe button. Join the conversation. Normally, there's 3 of us. Joe is not here today. It is just me and Mike. Quick, delightful show, touching on some of our favorite topics in the NFL. Mike, how you doing?
Doing great. And my favorite thing to do is talk about Derek Carr when Joe's not here. So excited for this one.
What's great is I think we're both excited for Derek Carr to not be a Raider.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, we're going to get to that. That'll be our first topic. But let's talk, just to open the show, this isn't on our list, but I thought that it was hilarious that the Raiders fans are so obsessed to get Aaron Rodgers, right? And on top of it, the reports are coming out that the Jets are still, they're not going to go down without a fight, but that Aaron Rodgers is literally going into a black hole to decide which team he should go to. Like, he's pointing directly, saying, like, I'm going to go sit in a black hole and find the answer. What do you think you're going to come up with? A black hole. It feels like the Raiders. That's where he's going. What do you think about all this?
I mean, I think if he goes to the Raiders, he's probably going to get a lot of the same stuff he's going to get in that dark room. A whole lot of nothing. But yes. Yeah, when he was breaking that down, I was like, this sounds like the strangest thing I could ever imagine going on. In pitch black darkness for 4 days. If you guys missed it, it was on the Pat McAfee show the other day. And I don't know what it's really going to accomplish. It's supposed to be like a self-reflecting time for him?
Yes, I believe it is. Like, you get in touch with your insides, your own mental thought. And I will say this, like, if you are at that level and you can't really go anywhere without people bothering you, you can't open up social media, do anything without people bothering you, there might be a positive side of just sitting in a room with zero noise whatsoever. But for 4 days, like, you're basically locking yourself in prison for 4 days. Rich people pay for the weirdest shit. Like, just rent a Airbnb in the middle of the woods with light and food and whatever and reflect there. You could turn the light out for, periods of time. I'm going to sit in darkness for 4 hours. But when I'm ready to get out of here and I want to hear some birds chirp and watch the sunset, I have that option. Fucking crazy. Yeah.
I don't understand the pitch black part of it. I don't understand what the turning the lights off is going to do. That's exactly what I was about to say. Why not go somewhere secluded and just reflect and think about where you want to go next in the light?
Exactly. I have heard people get good results out of sensory deprivation. Sorry, that was a tough one for me. What's going on, Albert? Hope all is well with you, brother. But to me, it's like, it's sort of the announcing of it. It's almost like Aaron Rodgers is really great at one thing, deflecting any attention away from his play on the field, right? It's like, it doesn't matter how good I am because I am such an interesting human being. Remember a couple years ago when they lost, I think it was like the NFC Championship game or something, and then the next day or whatever, he was in the back of a pickup truck with like a 30-pack of Bud Lights, no seatbelt, cruising on the street. It's like, this dude's a genius at changing whatever the narrative is about what happens on the football field. He's a very smart man.
Right? We're here talking about his dark trip he's about to go on instead of his trade value and what it's at. Because I think I'm actually confused on what his trade value is. Maybe when he comes out of this dark room, the light will be so bright that it'll knock some sense into him and he'll end up going to the Jets anyways.
I do think there is something to that. I think that you regain touch, like, with all of your senses when you do drastic things like this. Like, I've heard of people going on all potato diets And then afterwards, they eat a piece of fruit, and it's the sweetest thing ever, right? They'll go on an all-potato diet for 30 days, and then they go and they have a strawberry, and it's like, oh my goodness, this is like, it's too sweet, because you deprive yourself from, all of the crap. Like, everything we eat is soaked in whatever. Like, you go to Taco Bell, it's a cheeseburger wrapped in a burrito, stuffed inside of a piece of flan. It's like, what the fuck? What are you serving us, Taco Bell?
So random.
Yes.
Oh,
I don't know why I jumped on Taco Bell. We would love you to be a sponsor of the show. Here we are.
What if Rodgers is in that dark room and he does start to hallucinate like he was talking about, and all he can see is him being the host of Jeopardy?
I think that is a real option, Mike, that he sees himself doing something else where he's going to go study to be a monk. He comes out, his head is shaved, and he's just going to go and meditate in the mountains somewhere and just wear an orange robe and retire from football. Like, I do think there is a world in which he's like, you know what? I thought about it, and I don't care how much money is there. I can make money. I can go to Silicon Valley and invest in the next genius and become a billionaire that way. How
does he go to the bathroom and shower and find everything, like his bed and stuff?
Well, there's a toilet in there, and I believe that there is some sort of food and water was what I got from the interview.
I just don't understand how he could see the toilet, right? If it's actually pitch black. Maybe he has to feel around for it, accidentally puts his hand in there, forgot to flush last time.
Exactly. now he's doing a pink eye. He's coming out with some real issues from this. I like where your head's at. He's got to go get on the DL. Well, from the quarterback, like the quarterback he might be replacing that everybody's talking about is Derek Carr. And that brings us to our first topic of the show, Mike. And that was that yesterday, the Vegas Raiders finally decided to say that Derek Carr could go and visit and meet with somebody, and it was the Saints. And so many things jumped to my head for why this is just absolutely ridiculous. I'll get to my thoughts on a second. But do you believe in reuniting Dennis Allen and Derek Carr?
Dennis Allen was his coach when he was a rookie, right? And he came into the league and started his career, and they went like 2-14 or something.
2 and not good. It was not.
Yeah, it wasn't a great. I just think that this is his first call that he probably took, the first team to reach out to him. I'm a little surprised that the Saints are interested in Carr. They kind of just failed with trying to go with a veteran quarterback, a similar situation on previous team, thinking that they can turn him around in Jameis Winston. And now they're looking at Carr. And not the same situation, because Carr's obviously a lot better quarterback than Jameis Winston, but similar situation. I don't feel like the Saints are really ready. They're not a quarterback away as of today with what's going on with Michael Thomas. He's up in the air. What's his status going to be? Can he even stay healthy and stay on the field? The Saints defense, in my opinion, took the biggest step back of any defense in the entire NFL, and they went to a defensive coach.
Yeah.
So I don't know what's going on in New Orleans. I don't think they're ready to be Carr's best suitor, but maybe Carr's just telling the rest of the teams that would be interested in him, like, hey, I know you guys are obsessed with this Aaron Rodgers thing. I know this Lamar Jackson thing is going on in Baltimore, but I'm here. Come and get me. I'm going to be the first one to go out and visit with the team instead of locking myself in a dark room for a week.
Who would be more fun at Mardi Gras? A dude who's married with multiple children, or Lamar Jackson or Aaron Rodgers? Like, you want the one guy who, like, they're out there tossing beads and whatever, and he's just like, "Sorry guys, I'm married, and I'm also a man of God," and I'm just, so many things don't add up for me for Derek Carr to go here. One, why would you want a defensive head coach? I don't think that he wants that, and I do think the Saints, they might not be a quarterback away from winning the Super Bowl, but they're a quarterback away from winning this division easily, right? Like, you look around, the Panthers are another team, a quarterback away from winning the division. And I've said many times on the show, Mike, the Panthers is the ultimate spot for him to go to. Like, everything is already there. They have draft capital. They're not in, like, cap space hell, sort of like where the Saints are. Like, what are the Saints doing? The Saints are a really weird team, because last year when they traded up in the draft to get Chris Olave and then draft Trevor Penning, and it was like, well, the Saints really think they have a shot in the NFC. And maybe if Jameis Winston stays healthy, and maybe if Jameis Winston plays the best football of his life without Sean Payton, maybe they can contend in the NFC. But this is far away. Like, Derek Carr's not going to go there and want to hope Mike Thomas is healthy. He's not going to want to go to the Saints and hope that Alvin Kamara doesn't face a suspension after that video came out for the beginning of the season, and hope that the Saints defense will turn back the hands of time on players that are aging really fast. Still good. DeMario Davis is one of my favorite linebackers. Cam Jordan is a surefire Hall of Famer. Tyrann Mathieu got any juice left? I don't know. It doesn't feel like a good spot.
Yeah, we just didn't see any consistency. We didn't see anything this last season that was signal that the Saints are heading in a direction that Carr should be looking for at this stage in his career. I want him to go to a contender because I want the Raiders fans to just be watching in agony as they've got Aaron Rodgers, and I'm sure they'll be good. They'll be a 10-11 win team with Aaron Rodgers, but not contending at all. But over in the NFC, Carr goes to the freaking Panthers, like you said. All of a sudden, that team's going to win the division. All of a sudden, that team might have a chance.
How funny would it be to see Frank Reich and Derek Carr at the podium in the Super Bowl next year? And it's like, wait, Colts, you had this guy at coach.
Yeah.
Raiders, you had this guy at quarterback, and both of you finished, under 500 this season. So congratulations. This is what I think Derek Carr is doing, because if I were Derek Carr or a friend, I would say, hey, bro, get out there and test this market. Bet on yourself. You are the best overall quarterback to be a free agent in a time when 11 teams need a quarterback. And you're going to be able to pick a good destination to have a family and school system and whatever, and that's not New Orleans. I think he's doing this to kind of mess with the Raiders. Oh, yeah, hey, guys, I'll go there. You might get some compensation for me. No. You're going to pay me $40 million. Or, because technically they could keep him on the roster and then trade him after.
Yeah.
Like, somebody's still going to want to trade for Carr. They don't absolutely have to cut him. That's the kind of the part that I don't understand, because somebody's still going to pay for a $40 million QB. Like, somebody will.
Yeah, they still could get a deal done. It's just now your trade package is basically you're just getting whatever you can get at that point. But I also think that when you look at the rest of the quarterbacks available and how there is 10, 11 teams that need quarterbacks, Aaron Rodgers and Lamar Jackson are real risks when you talk about your investment and where you're putting your money and where you're putting your draft capital. Derek Carr, I think, is the least risky signing or quarterback that can be brought in, plugged into a team, and is probably going to function, within the first 6 weeks of the season at a level that he was functioning at his best with the Raiders. I also think that the Jets are still the perfect fit for him. And then my dream spot, obviously, is San Francisco. But I don't know if the 49ers are even actually in the QB market as far as acquiring someone that big and bringing in Derek Carr to put him there. But I think somewhere where he can go, where he has a very strong run game to lean on, a very good defense, and Derek Carr can be used to his best, which is off the play action and pushing the ball down the field to, good wide receivers like Garrett Wilson or DJ Moore or Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, you name them.
Yeah, I agree. That's the best system for him. Let's move on to the next QB that is getting paid. Somebody is paying Lamar Jackson, but the Ravens' bags seem to be a little light. We're missing multiple bags, however you kids want to break this one up. $100 million is the reported gap between what the Ravens are willing to pay and what Lamar wants.
Mm-hmm.
Are we just slowly seeing the end of this relationship, or do you think they can find a way to bridge that gap?
I think that the Ravens are probably going to start getting some calls from teams when they see these reports that they're that far off on contract negotiations. And they're going to be teams that are just like, hey, here's what we would be willing to pay for Lamar Jackson. I want you guys to just see this offer on paper and we can negotiate it. And that might change the Ravens' opinion a little bit. Because if you look at, let's say, Tennessee Titans, that offense is perfectly built for Lamar Jackson to come in. You can upgrade a little bit on the offensive line, but the wide receivers don't need to be crazy. You have Derek Henry and Lamar Jackson in the backfield, a guy that can make every single person in this league miss, one of the fastest quarterbacks we've ever seen, most agile quarterbacks we've ever seen, with some of the best ball carrier vision we've ever seen, with one of the strongest, biggest, most freakish athletes the NFL has ever seen. And they're in the backfield together, running the read option, running play action, running speed options, running everything that Mike Vrabel and his offensive coaching staff, which I believe they brought in a new offensive coaching staff this offseason, can come up with. And what would the Titans be willing to send to Baltimore? Baltimore's shown that they can make it work with this offense with anyone that can run the ball. We've seen Tyler Huntley have success. We've even seen them have to go even as far back as fourth or fifth string quarterbacks, basically wide receivers playing quarterback for them. Would Tennessee send Malik Willis and multiple picks over to Baltimore for Lamar Jackson? I think hell yeah, they would. Would Miami send multiple picks with Tua over for Lamar Jackson? I think hell yeah, they would. And if Baltimore starts to see these offers on the table, it's going to get more enticing.
Yeah, I think we got to look around at the teams, Mike, that are like not in the AFC. I think the Ravens would be more apt to trade him out of there. I like both of those, by the way. And I think
Atlanta's another one.
Atlanta, the Bucks are interesting to me. Washington is also interesting to me. Lamar Jackson like pushes your ceiling to Super Bowl contender for the first 11 weeks of the season. It's can you manage the body and stay healthy there? This is Adam Lewis. This is the new logo.
Looking good. Logo right here. Yeah, looking good.
Love it. Lamar Jackson in any of those places, right, is fantastic. The problem has been we now have back-to-back seasons of the injury. I'm starting to wonder a little bit, Mike, do you think that maybe the injury at the end of this year was a little bit of like, hey, this is what life is like without me? Like, this is just a little glimpse of your future. Maybe, I don't know how bad the injury was. It seemed like Harbaugh didn't know how bad the injury was. There was always like, oh, he's going to be back in 2 to 4 weeks, and then it ended up lingering for 2 months. I don't know. I don't think he's back.
Yeah, the situation was kind of weird because the Ravens and Lamar were in a kind of a win or bust situation. Lamar's playing on his last year of his deal, basically saying, I'm betting on myself. I'm about to prove to y'all that I'm undeniable. You have to sign me to this guaranteed deal. I mean, what would have proved that more than what we've already seen Lamar Jackson do in his career? Winning another MVP, winning the Super Bowl, getting one step away, the AFC Championship. Like, what was it going to take for the Ravens to budge and go, yeah, we'll give you the Deshaun Watson contract? And that's another question, Tony. This is a line that's about to be drawn in the sand, I think, with Lamar Jackson. And that's going to be what quarterbacks deserve this fully guaranteed talk and what quarterbacks don't. And if they give it to him, if the Ravens or another team give it to him, which another team probably will if he hits the open market, we're in trouble for Herbert and Burrow and all these guys who are going to say, yeah, Lamar has an MVP, but, you know, we are out here carrying our teams on our backs.
Yes. And here's the thing is that the NFL is not built for guaranteed huge contracts like this because the roster size is so big. So unless they open up the cap and everything else, it's just not built for it. Like, even Adam Lewis is saying $100 billion. That's right. Like, it's $100 billion is a big gap to be separated on. But I do think there's a team that is willing to do that. Both Atlanta and the Panthers were both involved in talks with Deshaun Watson. So they're probably closer to the amount of guarantees that they're willing to send out there. The Ravens feel like that dude who's in a relationship where they're like, I really, really love you. And she's going, then you need to propose. You need to put a ring on it and lock this shit down. And the Ravens are going, but I don't know. I still want to go to the club. I still want to see what's out there. Like, I don't know if this is forever, ever, ever kind of love. And to me, and from all my friends, it's a huge mistake. If you got something really great, don't be peering over the fence to see what's on the other side. Go ahead. Give Lamar Jackson what he wants. We already know he's a good leader and good for your program, your city. The fans love him. He's exciting. Give him 5 years. And honestly, in 5 years, the body's probably going to deteriorate and he won't be worth that money anyways. But you're going to be a Super Bowl contender with him. So just pay him. Keep him with Baltimore. Although I don't think he stays.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. I think that even after this contract, they'll look back and even if they don't win a Super Bowl with him, they'll say, you know what? It was worth it because we still got that same Lamar Jackson for 3 or 4 more years. We still sold all those tickets. We sold all those jerseys. We made our fan base happy. And if the Ravens extend him minus injuries, they're probably going to contend every year with him because he is that kind of weapon. He is that hard to stop as an offensive player week in, week out. Atlanta, I think the news broke, right? It was either Atlanta or New Orleans had already basically acquired Deshaun Watson, and it fell through at the last moment.
Well, because Cleveland came back and said, whatever you want, fully guaranteed, we don't really care. We don't care what anybody's saying about legal proceedings or whatever. We'll give you every dollar fully guaranteed.
We'll see how that goes.
Yeah. Welcome to fourth place.
But yeah, it ruined everything. It ruined everything for the QB market and all these young quarterbacks. This conversation is going to happen. And hopefully with our quarterback, there is no conflict. And all the other quarterbacks, there's multiple conflicts. Doing great for you.
I'm really hoping that Herbert does decide to go just selfishly for us. Let's take a quick little break into nuts and bolts talk here between us two. I'm hoping he goes the Patrick Mahomes route and it signs the 10, 12-year deal where it's spread out and it can be functionally done. But also just pay him whatever. It's an entertainment. I don't honestly, at the end, I get upset and I get bummed when my team loses, but it's entertainment and it's fun and I don't really give a shit. Pay these people who've dedicated their life to entertaining us, the fans. Somebody who is the opposite of the first two people we described. This dude is like, hey, I really want to be here. I'm in a giving spirit. Let me give back money to continue to be a Cowboy. And I love this about Zeke. I'm a fan of Zeke. I know people think I'm a Cowboy hater, especially Mike. I hate on the Cowboys. No, I hate on the Cowboy fans. I hate that conversation around. And I hate the 90s Cowboys for sure. But this Cowboys team, I love Zeke. He's been fun. He's been entertaining. And now he said, it's not about money. It's about happiness. It's about being with Dak. It's about having a star in my helmet. And if it means I got to take a pay cut, I'm down. How did you feel when you heard about this? And should the Cowboys still be like, no pay cuts enough? You're done.
Well, how much was he saying he's willing to take off?
I didn't see a number. Yeah. I just said that restructuring is in the works of the reports and that they're planning to tag Tony Pollard.
Okay, so they're going to tag Pollard and expect Pollard to continue that negotiation to the offseason, I assume. Zeke needs to be in the real spirit of giving because it's time to come to reality. And that's probably why he's realized this now that we've hit this fork, this crossroad. Tony Pollard is about to be off the team, and he realizes that he's the RB2 of this team, and they're going to go with Tony Pollard over Zeke Elliot. And I'm pretty sure they could flat out just cut Zeke if they want to and save almost all of the money. So Zeke has realized that he's Elijah Mitchell, great running back still, but an RB2. He's Jamal Williams, great running back, but typically an RB2. This year he was more of an RB1 because DeAndre Swift couldn't stay healthy. He's one of those kind of guys more so than the workhorse that he was in his first couple years in the league. Jerry Jones saw this guy in college and probably was peeing himself. This is Emmitt Smith 2.0 that could dunk. You know what I mean? That could get up. You could not have expected a guy at Zeke's size to keep that explosion, keep that athleticism for 10 years. It was damn near impossible. And we already started to see the doubts and the cracks in the ship when they first signed him, and he had to hold out and everything to get this deal in the first place. So bravo to Zeke. He's finding a way to stay in Dallas. That tandem is really good together. And I think that you're going to see Tony Pollard get this franchise tag, probably get paid. And Zeke, like I said, that's why I'm asking how much he's taking off, because Zeke needs to go down to 8 or 7 a year. He needs to drop down.
Yes, 49ers.com is in here. He just cranked me up with his most recent comment. Bosa's, let's celebrate it. Great players. But he says all that cereal finally caught up with Zeke. That's right. Right?
Also, Zeke might have a little bit of trade value. Not some high pick, but you could probably get a mid-round pick for him to a team that might be looking for an RB2 that has his play style.
No, Mike, that's ridiculous, and there is no way that's going to happen. The fact that Bijan Robinson is going to fall out of the first round potentially is he would have been a top 5 pick of my youth. Like, it was always that way. I watched Carolina, who was it? It was the Bengals when I was a kid, picked my favorite running back from Penn State, this guy named Kajana Carter. You can't find anything about Kajana Carter. But at Penn State, this dude was a monster. Saw this with all of them. Bijan Robinson would have been a first-round pick. Breece Hall last year would have been like early first-round pick in most drafts. Zeke, no trade value. Running backs don't have trade value. Like, even when running backs still have a lot left on the tires, you know that if you get them, you're going to have to renegotiate with them if you trade for them in year 3. That's why I was surprised, like, James Robinson got traded. It's like, James Robinson didn't get much to go to the Jets. Like, they didn't get much out of that, but they got something. The Cowboys situation is very unique because of Jerry Jones. Jerry loves you, and if you're willing to work with him, you'll be a Cowboy for life, and it's been at the detriment to that organization for the last 25 years, hanging on to players past their prime. If Zeke was a Patriot, where do you think Zeke would be right now?
On the Jets.
Exactly. Playing for another squad. Like, even Joe Mixon, who's had back-to-back good years, is probably not going to be back with the Bengals, if you believe the reporting that's going on. Which is, that's wild to me.
It'll be interesting to see how the Cowboys manage this, because you're paying Dak all that money. You're paying CeeDee Lamb's coming up. You're paying guys on the defense now. Like, it's starting to look like you can't really afford to pay top dollar for a running back, and you got 2 guys that are kind of demanding it.
Yeah, and at some point they're going to need to start doubling down on offensive linemen, because it's always been the hallmark of success of really any team. I'm getting so tired of nobody. We don't spend enough time talking about offensive linemen in the combine. We really should just be like, hey, your first round pick should be an offensive lineman. Like, it's just that simple. Like, identify this guy, and if you're picking later in the first round, pick an offensive lineman.
If you go back in Super Bowl history and you just look at all the teams that have made it to the Super Bowl, majority of them have great offensive lines, and the few that slip through the cracks with elite defense or crazy quarterbacks or crazy receivers lose in the Super Bowl. So
really good teams at dominating the line of scrimmage are always around at the end of the year. It's just the history of the NFL. Big dudes win games, but the skill position players make it appealing to the eye and entertaining and sexy and sell all the units and sponsors. I just saw something come through my phone before we get to these the quarterbacks who play in the Super Bowl. Greg Rosenthal puts out this list every year for NFL.com, and stupid Wi-Fi mouses. I just want Roger Goodell was at the podium for the Super Bowl, and he was saying that they're going to flex Monday Night Football games. I had read a rumor earlier in the year, but next year they're going to be able to flex at the end of the season Monday Night Football. Are you a fan of this?
I'm a fan of it for the sake of getting some entertaining games on Monday Night Football at the end of the year. You're going to get big playoff, implication games at the end of the year on Monday Night Football. But I don't think that's very fair to the teams to all of a sudden have a short week without, with a 2-week notice.
I was thinking the same thing, but for the fans, right? If I have tickets to a game and then all of a sudden the Chargers get flexed into a Monday night and I've already cleared the schedule and everything else, it's like my kids have school, there's school the next day. Maybe I wouldn't have got these tickets. Like, I'm still going to, don't get me wrong. I've already invested $1,000 plus. I'm going to the damn game. But like, it seems unrealistic. And also for fantasy purposes, I don't
that
like
changes things. Yeah. That changes.
I'm one of those people that likes to get a player on Monday Night Football. And if they're flexing it and they're messing with my fantasy schedule.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And I'm looking at Ian Rappaport right now. It's also been added that they're looking at doing it for Thursday Night Football as well.
To me, that feels impossible. Like, it would have to be like multiple weeks out and
a month out.
like you're just telling two teams that are trying to fight for the playoffs, oh, hey, in 2 weeks, we're flexing you to a short week of preparation.
Against another, probably if you're flexing it, probably against another playoff team.
Yeah. I wish they would get rid of Thursday night football altogether and just give the middle finger to college football and say, hey, we're going to have a featured game on Saturday night once a week. Like, just let that be the standalone game. Saturday, Sunday, Monday Night Football. Like, just have this, asking these guys saying, we care about player safety and player health, but we're going to ask you to play a game 72 hours after you just played a game. That feels like you don't really care as much as you say you do.
I know they don't want to interfere with college football, but I've always thought that they should put Thursday a few days back. They should do it on Friday or Saturday. I'm cool with an earlier game, just one for an extra primetime game. But playing it on Thursday seems kind of crazy, especially this year. You started to really see it. I think the Tua situation put it into perspective how quick these players are turning around and playing again.
Yeah, it's brutal to have the fact that you added a game. You added a 17th game. But it's all about money. The players want to make money. The owners want to make money. The cities need to make money. The mayors and council people and governors, they need all of this revenue. Just needs to keep coming. So it's not going to stop. We're going to get an 18th game at some point. They'll find a way to squeeze in a second bye week. They're going to find ways to make it feasible to have teams in London and Canada and Mexico at some point. Hopefully I'll be a very old man and not talking to anybody on the internet, just yelling at people to get off of my lawn, which needs some real TLC right now. Just as a personal insight into my life. I got some shit to take care of this weekend before the Super Bowl. Let's talk about these QB rankings.
Speaking of the Super Bowl.
So Greg Rosenthal came out with a list. And I was interested to see, I forgot to check to see where Patrick Mahomes was last year, but currently on the list, he is the 10th ranked quarterback. Ahead of him is obviously Tom Brady, but then he has Johnny Unitas, Joe Montana, Peyton Manning, Dan Marino, Aaron Rodgers, Brett Favre, Steve Young, John Elway, Patrick Mahomes inside the top 10, right? Now, you know how I feel about this. I am pissed that Aaron Rodgers is ahead of Brett Favre.
Immediately.
Greg Rosenthal, show yourself, punk. What are you doing? In what world does this guy get to one Super Bowl and he is ahead of Brett Favre? Get out of here with that noise.
Well, that's where I'm confused with the ranking with this list. Because it's not the list of the greatest Super Bowl quarterbacks. Because then Terry Bradshaw comes all the way up to the top 3 or something. It's the list of the best quarterbacks to play in Super Bowls.
To play in a Super Bowl.
Yeah, so it's not the best Super Bowl performing quarterbacks. It is all the Super Bowl appeared quarterbacks are on a list, and here are the all-time ranks of them from top to bottom.
Yeah. So what I thought was like really interesting about the list was Patrick Mahomes is already at 10, and if he wins this Super Bowl, he probably jumps to number 2. Right?
I mean, yeah, right?
I just looked at it because I don't like Eric Bieniemy, candidate for Baltimore or Washington OC.
Yeah,
I love these alerts on my phone. But I don't like Johnny Unitas being up in this ranks, right? Like, you know how I guard old football, Mike. You know that I love to stick up for the John Randall over Aaron Donald defensive tackle. Like, I do a lot of that shit. Sterling Sharp, still the best receiver I've ever seen play football. I will do a lot of that shit. But Johnny Unitas, like, really playing against guys with part-time jobs, like, I just don't love that. We're now talking about people with around-the-clock dedication. This is the single focus is this profession. So Johnny Unitas at 2 kind of bumps me. But if Patrick Mahomes wins this Super Bowl, 2 MVPs, 3rd Super Bowl appearance, he goes to number 2 on the list before the age of 28, 27 years old. Oh, my goodness. This guy is making me sick.
Yeah, and I have this as my first line when I was looking at this, is that I might be disrespecting Johnny Unitas, but putting him above a guy like Peyton Manning is insane to me. If you go and watch, I'm just saying, go and watch Johnny Unitas play. I'm not saying like we can compare eras. We can't. There's no way to compare Johnny Unitas to Peyton Manning as far as what they are as quarterbacks. But it seems a little bit disrespectful if you watch what Johnny Unitas did and what Peyton Manning did, and to say that Johnny Unitas deserves a spot higher on this list, especially a spot this high. Like, we could talk about higher. We're talking about quarterbacks in the middle of this list, but we're talking about number 2 and Peyton Manning's at number 4. I believe Joe Montana was at number 3.
Yes.
I mean, I can see you have an argument for Montana, especially on a list about Super Bowls, but I would even put Manning over Montana also.
Yeah, I think because it's weird because they're talking about total careers and what they did. And Joe Montana doesn't stack up the individual regular season accolades like some of these other guys, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that's the weird thing. Because I could make an argument that Joe Montana, based around the BS Jordan arguments about finals appearances,
that's really
Joe Montana's Super Bowl appearances alone, this dude's on fire.
Yeah.
Like 11 touchdowns to 0 interceptions, 4-0 record. Like,
clutch.
Yeah. Some of these other players, their Super Bowl resumes, Patrick Mahomes, 2 touchdowns, 4 picks. Doesn't look great. Hey, shot callers. What do you come at the afro? I'm getting a haircut tomorrow because I'm taking my daughter to a father-daughter dance at her school. So I do got it for our Super Bowl show on Friday. I'll be clean.
I'll be cutting the hair again, getting the fade on the sides for the Super Bowl.
Goodness, did you get re-enlisted or what's going on there?
What's going on? Yeah, this is the boot camp cut right here.
Ooh, come on, Elmer Pyle.
Some other names on this list. Every time I see a ranking list of all time come out, I think Terry Bradshaw is underrated because Terry Bradshaw has the same argument as Joe Montana with 4-0 in Super Bowls. And more specifically, those Steelers teams beat the best team of the era and the best quarterback of the era multiple times, Roger Staubach. Those teams were super teams, the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Cowboys of that time. He's ranked at 17.
Yeah. Bradshaw at 17, Aikman 3-0 at 16, but Roethlisberger ahead of him at 15. Fran Tarkington 0-3 in Super Bowls ahead of both of all 3 of those guys. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like
Troy Aikman is one of the most overrated quarterbacks in NFL history. and so is, I want to say this, Joe Namath is the most overrated quarterback in NFL history. Without a doubt. He has at 18 on this list. And all he has is that 1 Super Bowl appearance. He has more interceptions than touchdowns. He doesn't have high yardage numbers. He didn't have a super long career. This guy was good on the mic. He was like a good WWE guy, but not necessarily the best football player in the world. He has that 1 Super Bowl. If he doesn't have that 1 Super Bowl, the quarterback he went against in that Super Bowl, Earl Morales, at 31. How far back does Joe Namath go on this list? To Goff? Jimmy G, if they don't get him that 1 Super Bowl? By the way, I still think that the Mafia or somebody had ties in that Super Bowl.
That's hilarious. What's up, MC Raider in here saying hello to Mike. Appreciate that. And more love for Bradshaw from Adam Lewis. You just gave an aneurysm to Shot Caller. He's sitting there. He's making a grilled cheese with like 17 layers. Give that mozzarella, feta. He's just in there and he's like, wait, what did you say about Joe Namath? Like, he's looking up your address right now.
He's the most overrated quarterback of all time, Shot Caller.
I got your back on this one. Joe Namath got a lot of, he's like the original social media, like hyped up dude, looked good, did the ads, was there, called his shot, fantastic, but isn't in the neighborhood of really any of the all-time greats. What he did for New York far before the birth, the conception of fantasy shot callers is touted. Last thing I want to say about this list, and you guys should look it up because it is kind of comical and you'd be shouting about it too, was Russell Wilson, 25th ranked on this list behind guys like Ken Anderson.
Yeah.
And like, I'm just looking at it. I'm like, the guy went to back-to-back Super Bowls. It won one. Like, he was essentially a bad play call away from going 2-0 in Super Bowls. Like, I don't know. I know he doesn't have the MVPs, but 25 felt like a little bit of a slight to me. Like, it felt like there's maybe a personal bias against him there.
To the Jets. We were talking about Lamar Jackson earlier, Harrison. Rewind the live. Go watch that conversation. We talked about this in depth on this episode. Also, everyone tuned in. We appreciate you guys. Like the video real quick before you go anywhere. It helps out a ton in the algorithm. You don't even know how much likes matter on YouTube. But Shot Callers is saying more Super Bowl appearances than Phillip Rivers. You don't got more anything else. He doesn't have more anything else. Joe Namath was a lady killer, and Phillip Rivers still gets more from his wife than Joe Namath got. Like, you don't more anything else. Anything else. Joe Namath, and in that Super Bowl, because I watched all the Super Bowls like a maniac that I am, in that Super Bowl, Johnny Unitas was injured, dressed, on the sideline, just in case Earl Morrall got injured. Earl Morrall was so bad in the game that they just threw Johnny Unitas out there anyways, and he almost led a 2-touchdown comeback with 2 minutes left to go in the game. Like, they still almost lost the game. They scored 16 points in the Super Bowl.
And you have more knowledge of this game than Shot Callers does. I know that I don't know Shot Callers doesn't, but I do know that personally.
Well, they should start. I'm gonna get onto the cusp of disrespect here because I also feel very strongly about some of these Raiders Super Bowls that they talk about and how amazing they were, even though their opponent threw 5 interceptions by halftime.
And okay, well, we don't need. You went big Punisher on him, right? He's not a player. He just crushed a lot. We all know that. Phillip Rivers has got game. Let's.
Mob did influence it. That's what I'm saying. It made no sense that Johnny Unitas had an injury and couldn't play, but was still dressed to play.
Well, let's not. I don't want to get into this. Is not conspiracy hour. We should do a tinfoil hat segment this offseason based on the script stuff that was coming out and all of that. And I love how these players think that, like, if there was an NFL script that they'd get it. That's one thing I thought about putting on the conversation list was these NFL players are like, oh, it's scripted. No, these are billionaires getting scripts and they're being told how the referees are going to rig games for certain outcomes. As if each NFL player was going to get a script. You're not a billionaire. Like, you don't get in on this little behind closed doors, 31 owners and Roger Goodell, like even one Packers GM. Like, that's why the guy never changes, who's at the top. He'll be there for 25 years because he's been sworn to secrecy, meeting of the skulls or whatever sort of conspiracy you want, that the NFL players are like, oh, it's scripted. You would have no idea if it was scripted or not.
He wants the tinfoil hat episode. Shot Callers is in for it. Maybe we should get Adam Lewis and Shot Caller on. We'll go full NFL conspiracy hour. We all bring the most interesting one we could find on the internet. To tie a bow on this list, Jim Kelly, Len Dawson, Bob Grease, in my opinion, should be higher.
Bob Greasy, yes.
All those guys are below Namath, by the way. Definitely should be above Namath.
Yeah, so Bob Greasy, the thing that is like so spectacular is it's still the only undefeated season, right? I think that has carries a ton of weight because it doesn't matter when you played. It like in your era of competition and throughout the history, no other team has been able to sustain that run of a game with such physical violence to put up a perfect season, no matter how many games are played. Like, to me, that's insane that you could do that your team could be that focused and never slip up once.
Yeah, and that team was like a team that was mimicking kind of what the Cowboys were doing with their offense and Tom Landry and what he was bringing to the league. And I feel like they almost did it better than how the Cowboys were doing it. If you go and actually watch what Paul Warfield out wide did on that team with Grease in the passing game, as far as taking steps forward in the passing game, I think that's what made them an undefeated team. Is taking that next level of we're not just going to I forget who the running back was. You probably remember his name. Beast for the Dolphins, that undefeated year and multiple other years. Larry Zonka. Yeah, they would just feed that guy. And once they got Grease and Warfield in there, they were able to become like a play action, like what we see in the NFL today. I think that shocked the NFL, and we're probably never going to see like a change like that again.
Yes, it's Bob Greasy, and welcome to the NFL History Network with NFL Night.
Yeah.
Let's go to our final topic. We're talking Super Bowl props. You and I.
Yeah. I don't do much gambling, Tony, so I'm not well educated in prop plan, so don't take much of my advice, y'all. But when I looked at the Kenneth Gainwell for everything,
Yep.
I'm smashing over on everything. His rushing yards are 19.5. That's easy. He's done that every game of the playoffs, every game in the later part of the season. His receiving yards are over 11.5 yards.
Give it to me.
He's going to have that in the first freaking quarter. Receptions, 1.5 receptions. First freaking quarter. You can almost book it. And I would also be thinking about putting him in just because his odds are so good and you'll make a lot of money, 1,700. First touchdown, maybe?
Ooh. And it is. It's like 2,200 to 1.
Screen, something like that. Maybe comes in for read option.
I'm with it. I'm with all of those. I think Kenneth Gainwell is going to have his breakout performance in the Super Bowl. I've already said that. We'll get to more of that. Our Super Bowl show is going to be Friday. I'm very excited to talk about all of the crazy things that I have to say. I'm going to let one of them out right now, Mike. Right now, any QB to have one receiving touchdown plus 3,000. Are you telling me right now that one of these teams, that Nick Sirianni isn't crazy enough to do an homage to the Philly special? Or, on the other hand, that the guy who was cast away to Kansas City to continue his legendary career, Andy Reid, doesn't want to do a Philly special on Philadelphia in the Super Bowl to really rub their face in it? I don't know if it's likely, but I like something crazy like this to happen, right? Or there's another one where it's 2,200 to 1, any person not playing QB to throw a touchdown pass. Former high school quarterback, Travis Kelce. Touchdown pass in this game, right? Maybe. I'm here for it. Jerick McKinnon.
Yeah. You know the Chiefs want it too. The Chiefs want it. They want Travis Kelce to throw a touchdown to somebody in this game. But if it's to Patrick Mahomes, and you cash in on both on the same bet pretty much, Tony?
Yeah.
You just
what high ankle sprain?
Yeah, exactly.
No, it doesn't exist.
Is this true? Is this a true report or no? It said that the Raiders and Saints have agreed upon compensation element for a trade of Derek Carr already.
Well, so I think that maybe, right? Like, why else would the Raiders let him go if they weren't interested in what the Saints were going to offer back, right? So maybe the Saints said, hey, we'll give you the 30th overall pick or whatever they're getting from the Eagles this year. I think they have the first, I don't know. They have somebody's pick, right? Maybe they give that pick away. And they say, hey, we'll do that. And the Raiders are like, well, if you're willing to do that, sure.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter because ultimately it's Derek Carr's call.
That's
so like even if both sides say we've agreed on this, it doesn't matter.
I think it's a mistake if Derek Carr takes it and goes to New Orleans. I think that there are better landing spots out there. And there are places that are going to be willing to make him, the future of their team. He could still play for 8 years and be good.
Yeah, and I think that is the thing too, is I think that, so we talked about this at the beginning of the show, but here's the real thing. Why wouldn't you want to start fresh with Frank Reich? Why would you want to go to a place like the Saints where Dennis Allen could get fired and then you're on another new coach? Mm-hmm. Part of the reason he didn't succeed with the Raiders is there's no stability there. Like, go somewhere where there's money, there's cap space, it's a winnable situation. Everything to me points to the Panthers. Even going to the Jets is risky because if Saleh doesn't win in a tough division, he could be on another new coach.
Yeah.
Like the Buccaneers job. We don't know how long that they're going to keep Todd Bowles there. Look around at all of the available spots. I would say if Lamar Jackson is on the move, the Baltimore Ravens would look pretty nice with Derek Carr quarterback. That'd be a pretty nice landing spot for the Ravens to say, we didn't want to give Lamar Jackson all of that money, and we can give Derek Carr a amount of money that we are comfortable with, and we can go try and run this thing back like we did with Joe Flacco.
Yeah.
About 9 years ago?
Yeah, it will be very similar, very reminiscent. Joe Flacco, not this crazy good quarterback, but just an explosive arm like Derek Carr has, can really push the ball down the field, something that Baltimore hasn't had the last couple of years very consistently out of Lamar Jackson. It would be kind of a pivot, and the teams in their division would have to adjust to it immediately and might not be able to. I think that, like we were talking about earlier, the thing about New York that's so enticing is Breece Hall. Because that guy wasn't looking like a top 10 running back in the league with potential. We weren't talking about, like, it's not a similar conversation or views that I had of J.K. Dobbins coming off the injury, where it's like, yeah, he has potential. I think he could be good. I think Breece Hall can be the best running back in the NFL.
I saw a little bit of that last year too, and I think that's like one of the things that the Jets have going for them, where it's like if they do get just a stable quarterback in there, like the Jets, even with Jimmy G, and I know Jets fans don't really love hearing that, you got a real shot to win that division next year.
You got a hell of a better shot than what they had last year, yeah.
Oh, 1,000%.
Yeah.
Last year's quarterback situation was a real nightmare for them.
And their defense is good. It's really good.
It's great. It's, you know what? That was another thing I learned. Quinnen Williams is the nicest, scariest man I've ever heard interviewed in my life. At the Pro Bowl, he was like this giant teddy bear, and I was like, there is no way that is the guy who was mauling 300-pound men. And he was just like, wait, that's scripting? That's fake, right? And I was like, are you kidding me? I thought for sure you were going to have this scary voice. Nope. Looks like the nicest guy ever and one of the best defensive tackles in football. Let's wrap the show up. Let's get out of here. This was a great chat. Everybody in here brought it.
Big wins
conversation, thoughts, topics. Really appreciate that. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Likes, all those wonderful things that help. I don't really care. I just like hanging out with everybody. Do what you got to do. Mike, anything?
Nah, other than Harrison offering us a nice linebacker.
Would we want Shaq Thompson for what?
I don't know. We'll send him Kenneth Murray. Straight up trade, Harrison. You'll love it.
The reality is we're probably going to let Drew Tranquill go and start undersized Nick Neiman at middle linebacker next year.
And Drew Tranquill is going to go to some really good defense. Watch. Just like Kaiser did.
Oh my goodness.
We're laughing, but we're crying on the inside.
I am crying on the inside. I love Drew Tranquill. I want him back so bad.
Oh, man. Well, that's it. We'll see you guys tomorrow for our next live. We're going to be live at a similar time, I believe.
Yes. Tomorrow we'll be back at 11 with 5 more topics and lots of other crazy random nonsense. You want me to hit this music, Mike?
Yeah, you got like a little closing line?
Nothing. Nothing.
Just take the money, Lamar. Just take the money.
Good.